Musk made headlines for blasting his Tesla Roadster into outer space. The stunt was all part of a test flight for the Falcon Heavy rocket, and the car did have scientific purpose, serving as the vehicle's payload. But the launch also became a spectacular PR move, drumming up plenty of excitement for Musk's private space firm, SpaceX, as well as his electric car company, Tesla. Inside the airborne Roadster, which is still traveling through space, is one lonely passenger, a mannequin dressed in full SpaceX astronaut attire and nicknamed Starman, after the David Bowie song. In 2019, this unusual spacecraft completed its first orbit around the Sun, and it's believed that it might be able to drift peacefully through space for millions of years into the future, before one day crashing back down to Earth or another solar system planet. Whatever happens to it eventually, if you want to know exactly where Starman is at any given moment, there are numerous websites you can use to track him. He doesn't stay in one place for long, mind you, since he's zooming along at the incredible speed of 14.5 miles per second. Elsewhere, not everything gets launched into space for a reason as comparatively sensible as being an experimental payload. In 2007, for example, a lightsaber was sent up by NASA to celebrate the 30th anniversary of the first Star Wars movie. It was a genuine prop lightsaber too, as used by Mark Hamill, aka Luke Skywalker in Return of the Jedi. Various figures took part in escorting the object to NASA, including Chewbacca, Boba Fett, and R2-D2, while series director George Lucas attended the launch as NASA's guest. But it's not like this is the only movie prop to be put into space either. Toy Story's Buzz Lightyear has been twice. Once, like the lightsaber on the Discovery Shuttle, and another time as a publicity stunt for the release of Toy Story 4 in 2019. When the 2019 Buzz came back to Earth, it was sold on eBay to raise money for charity. Neither is Buzz the only toy we've sent to space, though. After its launch in 2011, the Juno probe took 5 years to fulfill its primary mission and reach Jupiter, which is 484 million miles away on average. But even for such a momentous trip as that, humanity still sent some trinkets of its own along for the ride. 3 special Lego figures were designed to make the journey, representing Jupiter and Juno, the king and queen of the Roman gods, and Galileo, the groundbreaking scientist, astronomer, and discoverer of Jupiter's 4 largest moons. NASA has actually had a long-standing link with Lego, with the toy bricks seen as a good way to get kids interested in science and engineering. Meanwhile, the Japanese astronaut Satoshi Furukawa even once built a Lego model of the ISS while he was aboard the real thing. That's our fill for toys and the like today, but other space probes have carried interesting packages too. The Voyager 1 and 2 crafts launched in 1977, for example, each holding a golden record with a wealth of information about Earth and humankind on it. These records, which really are gold-plated, were put together by a large team of scientists led by the renowned astronomer Carl Sagan, who described them as being like a message in a bottle. They contain recordings of Earth sounds and popular Earth music, including rock and roll classics like Johnny B. Good by Chuck Berry. Each record also carries 115 images of Earth, a message from the U.S. president at the time of the Voyager launches, Jimmy Carter, and even a brain scan of one of the research team, Andriane. The thinking was that if the probes were or are ever to be discovered, then the aliens which find them will have a lot of information about our planet if they ever decided to visit us. And hopefully they'd come in peace. They might even be able to communicate with us directly, at least at first, since the Voyager records also have greetings in 55 different languages on them. For another of the most interesting objects we ever put into space, there was a poignant bridge between spaceflight and on-Earth aviation, with the legendary flyer Amelia Earhart being honored by NASA. Though she famously and mysteriously disappeared in 1937, Earhart's memory has lived on. And, in fact, the organization of female pilots that she founded, the 99s, count the astronaut Shannon Walker among its members. Fittingly, it was Walker who was chosen as the custodian for Earhart's watch, taking it on board a space mission to the ISS in 2010. It was the very same watch that Earhart had worn during her pioneering solo flights across the Atlantic. As well as the timepiece, Earhart's scarf has been to space as well. This time it was taken there by another astronaut, Randy Bresnik, who's the grandson of Albert Bresnik, who was Earhart's authorized photographer. Over the decades, of course, as spaceflight has become a more and more prominent part of pop culture, there have been plenty of people dreaming about going to the stars. The problem is that most have never gotten a chance to fulfill that dream. purely because of how incredibly grueling and difficult it is to actually become an astronaut. The training is ultra intense and takes years to complete. But among the most unexpected things to have been sent to space, we can count human remains. Even if you never make it to space in life, there are some options in death provided you can afford the costly process of space burial. There are now many private companies which offer space burial services, and you can even arrange to have your ashes pointed at specific celestial bodies, launched in the direction of other planets in the solar system or the moon, for example. Among the high-profile figures to have had their ashes in space so far are the creator of Star Trek, Gene Roddenberry, the astronaut Gordo Cooper Jr., the astronomer and discoverer of Pluto, Clyde Tombaugh, and the physicist Gerard K. O'Neill. There have even been cases where dearly departed pets have been sent to space in this way. But of course, many living animals have also made the journey before now. Probably the most famous non-human astronaut was Laika the dog, who unfortunately died on the Soviet Union's Sputnik 2 in 1957. As for the first animals of any kind launched into space, that came 10 years earlier when NASA sent fruit flies up in 1947. After the flies, NASA were emboldened to send up monkeys, although again, unfortunately, lots of these monkeys didn't survive their missions. More recently, in 2011, some golden orb spiders were taken to live on the ISS for a while, mostly to observe the effects of zero gravity on them. But arguably the strangest part of the natural world ever to find itself in space came in 1985, when the fossilized remains of a dinosaur were taken along on a NASA mission. Then, in the late 90s, a small dinosaur skull traveled on board the shuttle Endeavour to the Mir space station. Finally, a fun fact to finish. Because did you know that there was once a pizza delivery service in space? The stunt unfolded back in 2001, when the restaurant chain Pizza Hut, noticing that the food on board the ISS was, well, limited, reportedly paid the Russian space agency Roscosmos $1 million for the privilege of delivering the first ever space pizza. The pizza in question had to be reduced in size to fit into the space station's small oven, and the pepperoni toppings had to be switched for salami so that it would survive the journey. But when it finally arrived, it was eaten by the astronaut Yuri Usachev. In truth, this space snack was but one chapter in a generally odd history between Pizza Hut and the USSR, now Russia, with the brand once delivering a pizza to the former president Boris Yeltsin, and even once enlisting the last leader of the Soviet Union, Mikhail Gorbachev, to star in a commercial for them. But that's a story for another video. For now, we've seen how cars, toys, movie props, and even human remains and dinosaur fossils aren't limited to life just on Earth. Whether it's for scientific gain, cultural impact, or just because launching things into the sky is an exciting thing to do, it goes to show that anything and anyone can explore the stars under the right circumstances. But those are some of the strangest things ever sent